Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. I have a special guest with me. I have Gregory, who runs the famous YouTube channel DApp University and makes awesome tutorials on how to get started with Ethereum and how to make different types of dApps and other things in the ecosystem. So, hi Gregory, great to have you. Great to chat with you today.
Hey, how's everybody doing? I'm doing well. Thanks so much for having me on.
Yeah, Gregory, so let's talk about our backgrounds first. And I'll let you begin. So, what's your background and how did you ma- get into the Ethereum space?
Sure. So, yeah, my background, I'm a programmer. I've been building applications for a long time, mostly web applications. And, I, like a lot of people, kind of became aware of blockchain and cryptocurrency by price action and kind of seeing people invest and getting returns, and that caught my attention. But being in technology, and I was very curious about what lied beneath that, and learning about Bitcoin, learning about blockchain, learning about Ethereum. I wanted to get my hands dirty on some code, and at the time, Ethereum was kind of the best place for me to get started. Already had a lot of momentum with developer tools and ways that you could kind of dive in and build something yourself. So that was a natural fit for me. And how did I get started doing what I'm doing? When I learned, there were some good resources out there, a lot of blog posts, a lot of some good courses out there, some good video courses. But I saw a need for good video content. I saw a need for some real hands-on, step-by-step walkthroughs, and it's something I wish I had more of when I was getting started. And I figured I would give the people what they're asking for.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Yeah, and as for me, again, I have a computer science background. I used to develop a lot of apps. I'm an Android developer, and I got into the Bitcoin space around 2-3 years back. Bought some Bitcoins, but when I saw Ethereum around a year back now, so that is what got me started. And I started to make videos, basic videos on what is blockchain, what is Ethereum. But after that, I moved on to making core videos, what is happening in the core aspects and in the research aspect of things, like what are various projects like 0x, other blockchains like Zelica or Kyber, what these projects are doing, and interviewing CEOs in the space. Yeah.
Very cool.
Awesome. So let's talk about some projects. What projects are you interested in the space, and some dApps and all that?
Right. So there's so much, happening right now. Everybody is in a rush to get something out there and to prove that they can build something on blockchain. And that's what's really exciting about this space, right? And that, has its pros and cons, right? We're going to see some mistakes happen, and some people are going to lose a little bit of money, both users and, companies. But that's just kind of the nature of the ball game. You can go to a website like dappradar.com, and I remember when DappRadar first launched, and now if you go there, there's just pages and pages and pages and pages of dApps that you can browse, and you can sort them by their metrics and everything. And I first want to just kind of turn people onto that resource if they're curious about what dApps are out there. Like there's some that we're going to cover today, but if you want to just kind of go deep down the rabbit hole, go there and you just kind of click around and explore. But for me, a lot of projects come to mind. I guess we can kind of go by categories, right? We're seeing a lot of solutions for decentralized social networks. We're seeing some solutions for decentralized exchanging, right? That's a big use case that people are trying to solve, or just decentralized financial transactions of some kind. more like decentralized autonomous organization projects, things like that, where you basically build an entity that runs itself on the blockchain. And yeah, the crypto collectibles, the crypto games, all that kind of stuff. I know there's more categories than specific dApps, but do you see any other categories like that that I might have missed?
Yeah, I think obviously we have collectibles like CryptoKitties, crypto countries, so many other collectibles out there. And I think there are a lot of projects that are like using Ethereum as a way for payment, like using the payment channels on Ethereum and using them to pay people, like say in industries in which there might be a lot of bottleneck in having centralized people holding people's funds. Like there's an example of Spank Chain,
Sure.
which is like a decentralized scam site right now. And what they do is like when you are paying a performer, you directly pay them in Ethereum, and the value goes to their wallet. Whereas in a normal centralized application, that money used to go to their PayPal account, or that used to go to the campsite, and they were able to like hold their money. They didn't have a lot of clarity of how they used to deal with their money. Like there might be sometimes there are cases that they won't give the money in the person's hand till like 2-3 months or like 6 months. So that is another use case. Like using payment channels is an interesting use case, and I think still
Sure.
Till now the currency aspect has been the most used of crypto, and that is what has like enabled us to, that is what has got so much hype, because there are projects like Hyperledger Fabric and like core blockchain Coda R3, but it's because there is this transactional utility to public blockchains and Ethereum that is what people are exploring, and there is a lot of opportunities to scale these applications to a lot of people. Yeah.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
So the I mean, we can kind of like talk more about some of these use cases, right? I mean, yeah. So yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head where, stuff that has financial transactions or financial incentives, right, are definitely what I think is taking off and really sticking, right, at the moment, just because, I mean, Ethereum by nature is a pay-to-play network. And one area where I see this, gaining traction for sure is with the game industry. With like in-game currency and things like that, right? Where there actually is, an alternate economy, right? An alternate like reality of sorts where people have always invested their time and have always invested their financial resources into, right? As that's grown over time. If anything, like that's here to stay. The fact that someone can spend their time, working on something in a game and achieve some level of success that translates into an in-game currency that can then be cashed out into whatever their own like local currency is on in their country or in or whatever, right? Like that translates into dollars. Or if you're bullish on crypto in the long run, it translates into Ether or Bitcoin or whatever you want. And I don't see that going away anytime soon.
And like because we have this programmable money feature, like you can do a lot of interesting stuff with these things in applications like games that we weren't able to, I think, do before. And even if say like they had points or something like that, it didn't make a lot of sense. Like having this in-game currency really is super helpful. And like say if you are an early adopter and you started using the game early, and your reward would be really high. I think
or you're able to secure some sort of assets in the game that then appreciate within that like economy, right?
Uh-huh.
You know, you have a game, like one game is like Crypto Space Commanders. That's a conversation I had with another guy on my channel. Well, that's a cool game that's doing a lot of stuff with blockchain, and they've done really well. So, for example, if you were to create an asset in that game or any game like it, and you were an early adopter of that game, and you know, time passes and that becomes a coveted asset, or you've made it better, then you have something of value, right? That can be, I guess, done with whatever you'd like.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about the decentralized exchange projects as well.
Sure.
So, like for me, I have seen like Kyber, 0x, Bancor, and I think 0x is super interesting in a way that it allows you to create your own relay and provide like build your own decentralized exchange in a way, and it helps to provide liquidity to a lot of assets, a lot of crypto assets who might not be able to get registered on centralized exchanges. And like say, if you want to create, if you have a speciality in real estate tokens, like you know the real estate token game, then you can build a decentralized exchange which has a speciality that it only trades in real estate, or it only trades, and it has researched the whole real estate market and lists down most of the real estate tokens. So I think that is super interesting. And Kyber is another one which is super interesting because Kyber has eliminated like the order book system. And if I used to trade at Kyber, like I used Kyber for trading, and it almost feels like trading at a centralized exchange. Yeah. What are your thoughts on the space, like the whole decentralized exchange space?
Yeah, totally. So I think the 0x project's awesome. How they've, protocols and standards are another hot topic right now. Maybe we can talk about that a little bit. They've really done a good job at codifying those kinds of things for decentralized exchanging. Yeah, we owe a lot, the space owes a lot to that project in particular, just for kind of setting that standard and providing something that people can build up of. I've got another video coming out with another decentralized exchange. It's called ERC Dex, an American company. So they're using the 0x project. Another cool thing, I guess we mentioned briefly, I guess we talked before, it's like the Bancor project, where, it's a different model. You're basically you're exchanging tokens for a set price, right? You're not having to do limit orders, et cetera, et cetera. That's another kind of project that I've seen floating out there and people are using. It's having pretty high transactions per day. I'm trying to think of what else. You mentioned Radar. Did you mention Radar Relay?
Yeah. Radar Relay.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you have any more thoughts about that project?
Yeah, Radar Relay I think it's one of the best exchanges. ERC Dex is also super interesting. And Radar Relay, DYDX, these are interesting relays that I've built on top of 0x. And yeah, I think they are doing a great job. What's your opinion about like decentralized exchange versus centralized exchanges? Because currently we can't actually move to fiat with the decentralized exchanges. That problem has to be solved, isn't it?
Right. That's a good question. I mean, right now, I think that decentralized exchanges are serving a special customer, customer that wants to stay within the blockchain cryptocurrency ecosystem, for sure. And I think they're just going to have, they're going to serve a different customer and they're going to serve a different use case. And that's just kind of the state of things for now.
Okay.
I mean, I think so. Maybe to clarify that a little more, there's two ways to approach this whole crypto game, right? Like, you're buying in and you're cashing out, right? Or you're buying in and you're staying in, and you're staying in, and you're staying in, and you're staying in. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like the old, was it maybe a Warren Buffett quote of some kind? I'm sure I'm probably going to get it wrong, right? What's his favorite holding period? Life.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think that's, I think there's a good amount of people who are, adopting that for crypto, and maybe not necessarily holding the same asset for life, but staying in the crypto space for, indefinitely. So.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And like, say, if we get adoption, more merchant adoption and all that, then that it's going to further increase this movement of staying in crypto. What?
Go
Yeah.
ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. What's your opinion about stable coins like MakerDAO, the DAI token, Basis?
Yeah, I don't have very strong opinions at the moment. I've seen a lot of these projects kind of pop up. Yeah, definitely MakerDAO on the radar. Do you have any particular opinions on the matter?
Yeah, I think MakerDAO is a super interesting project. Then we have Bases as well. We have Tether and True USD. These are 3-4 projects, but I think MakerDAO is the most transparent of all of them because they are built on top of Ethereum. So
Right.
that provides a lot of transparency. Bases just raised around 133 million. That is why they got into the news, but I haven't seen anything. I read a bit of their white paper, but it didn't excite me as much as MakerDAO does.
Right.
Yeah, and that's the thing. But I think stable coins are really important. Like say if I am a merchant, then I would accept stable coins other than like say Ethereum. If
Right.
Yeah, so stable coin problem is going to be huge. Like even in say the games that we see that we were talking about earlier, if stablecoin concept can be introduced, I think that might overpower the token of the game. If the trading is done only in stable coins, then yeah, that might provide more utility. So I'm
Right.
really excited about the space in general, but there is a lot that needs to be done. And the trouble with MakerDAO that I can share is like what people are criticizing is like say what happens is in MakerDAO is like say if the price of Ethereum is going up, then there is no issue. It has two tokens. One is the DAO Maker token, and another is the DAI token. DAI is the stable coin. It goes to its value is close to 1 USD. But the trouble is when the price goes down, then there is an algorithm to get more Maker token in supply, and there is an algorithm to adjust the price of the DAI token so that it should remain $1. But if say the price goes from $700 to $10 within say 2 minutes or 1 minute, then there might be some issues with the algorithm. So or say if there is a bug in Ethereum and it just goes down to zero, then or it goes down to say $1 or something, then I don't think so. There's some trouble with that system. So yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. You want to talk about some other dApps?
Sure. I guess one category that I mentioned briefly earlier, but I think people are very excited about the possibility of decentralized social networking, right? Like, I think we've all known, anyone who's been involved in technology really has probably known for a long time what happens with data, right? When you give data to a big company, when you have a free platform, right? If it's free, then the customer is the product, essentially. So there's a lot of room for somebody to really lead the charge in that area. And of course, Steam has been around for a little while, but on Ethereum in particular, the Peepeth DApp is very cool. It's basically a decentralized Twitter. We had Leroy before, and Ben Barton started Peepeth, and has been doing a really good job with that. It's a combination of Ethereum. They're also using IPFS to kind of batch transactions together to minimize the amount of times essentially that you have to pay in order to write data to the blockchain, which is pretty cool. The UX is also really good. that's been a problem that people have been trying to tackle is like, you know, the block, you know, with Ethereum right now, you have the asynchronous nature of the blockchain, interacting with it, right? Interacting with smart contracts. You basically have to, when you're writing data, you have to, you know, essentially make an asynchronous call and wait for that to finish in order for to see success, right? To listen to events, things like that. So, I mean, you have some of the same, you know, UX problems that you have to solve with other asynchronous apps that might be built on something like JavaScript, right? But you have much longer wait times, right? If anyone's ever built, you know, worked with an asynchronous API or just made asynchronous API calls in general, right? With like Ajax or something like that on a client-side app, you know, you need to handle like asynchronous events and like moving on to the next thing and using promises and things like that. But you're talking like milliseconds, you know, if even, right? Machine time for those kinds of things. Sometimes they're longer running tasks, right? But with, you know, the mainnet Ethereum blockchain, like transaction times be much, much higher, unbearable for most people. Like users have gotten used to just instant feedback with centralized web technology because we can scale our infrastructure to such a high power that, you know, things just happen almost instantly, right? That's not quite where we're at with Ethereum right now. So, you know, if you're going to write a transaction, you have to wait for a long time. That's a big UX problem that we're trying to solve, and different people are handling that different ways. I think I've seen a lot of people start to do that well. This is a good example.
Yeah. You're talking about the data part. Like in Pipit, the data is on the blockchain. Like anyone can build their own front end. So, like say if it wanted to implement messaging, then
Sure.
it won't be possible because you don't want everyone to see the messaging on the blockchain. So I think privacy would be like having all these zero knowledge proofs or something like that here.
Right.
Would be really useful, like doing research there, like in which only say two people who are chatting or who are doing a transaction, they are only able to see the data, but or everything is stored on the blockchain, but only two people can see that. I think
Sure.
that needs to get solved if we are thinking of building decentralized social networks.
Yeah, very true, very true.
And you want to talk about some like other projects, like what was your opinion about CryptoKitties? And
Sure, yeah, CryptoKitties, you know, big project, probably the most famous collectible project. You know, it came out towards the end of last year, towards the end of 2017. You know, kind of introduced this idea of a non-fungible token and propose a new standard for Ethereum. So if anybody's watching is not familiar, you know, we are in a rush to or a race, I should say, to set standards that everyone can agree on, right? Standards of how things should be done in Ethereum. And a lot of people who are familiar with the cryptocurrency space are familiar with ERC20 tokens, like as a category, right? These are basically tokens that are built on top of Ethereum. And so that's a standard, right? ERC20. And we've moved on, and you can go on GitHub and look at the Ethereum Improvement Proposals repository, which then is translated to Ethereum Request for Comments, which is what ERC stands for. I'm pretty sure that's what it stands for. And yeah, these things eventually get, you know, community feedback, and they're vetted and eventually are adopted. And that's kind of the process. And ERC 721 is still kind of in that process where we're trying to figure out, like, hey, if we want to represent assets on the blockchain, like, you know, non-fungible assets that can't just be swapped out for something else that's unique, right? If I have the Mona Lisa, right, I'm not exactly sure how much the Mona Lisa is worth, but I know it's worth something and it's unique, and I have to value it in some way, and it can't be swapped out for another Mona Lisa, right, painting. And that's kind of what we're trying to do with ERC 721. And CryptoKitties was kind of the first big like implementation of that, saying like, what can we do with digital assets in the blockchain, right? Like cryptocurrency is there to be internet money, and this is there to be an internet asset. So
yeah, and I think like the way the CryptoKitty project it clogged the network, it showed everyone that we have a lot of limitations currently,
right.
And I think it really pushed it is like a thing which is pushing all the efforts for sharding and Casper, and all the
Right.
scalability.
Yeah. Any scaling solution. Yeah, we're definitely pushing our limits. And the fact that, a DApp can get so popular, right, that it can do that. I mean, I think also like the fact that was at the same time as the massive bubble that happened towards the end of last year. You're seeing all these tokens that are traded while CryptoKitties is doing this. It was a perfect storm of activity, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, but it is proof that we have work to do. We have work to do, and scaling is a necessity in order for this space to succeed. And we're exploring all kinds of options from sharding, Plasma, Casper, side chains, state channels, all kinds of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I saw you making a lot of videos about the POA network.
Right. Yeah. That? So another big leap forward in the space is the POA bridge, which essentially is an interoperability protocol, which allows you to transfer tokens from one blockchain to another. So here's the idea. So POA network is an Ethereum sidechain. So essentially, it's a fork of Ethereum that works a little differently, right? So the main Ethereum network is a blockchain that runs on a different consensus algorithm than POA network. So POA network has a proof of authority consensus algorithm where they basically have vetted validators that basically have to have no criminal record, et cetera, that act as the authority to validate transactions on the network. And so if you're going to be on the POA network, like you as a user can't just opt into the mining process, right? Like you can't just start up a node and say, I want to opt in to mine native currency on POA network. It doesn't work that way. You can do that on Ethereum, but you can't do it here. So if you're on that network, right, and you have a native Ether essentially, like on that network, right? But it's a native POA currency. What happens if you want to get access to a liquidity market elsewhere, right? Like how are you gonna trade that for something else, right? Like you would have to have access to a liquidity market like on the network itself, right? So if you wanted to get access to a different liquidity market, you would need a bridge, and that's what one big use case for this. So they have an ERC20 implementation of their token on Ethereum, and that's what the bridge allows you to do. Allows you to move back and forth. So you can take your own native POA currency and transfer it to the main Ethereum network to get POA 20 tokens, which is an ERC20 implementation of their currency, and vice versa. So you could simultaneously buy into the network by purchasing POA 20 tokens on Ethereum and then moving over to POA network.
And like, what are some cool applications like that you see are going to use the POA network? And what applications do you see?
So POA is definitely working on a lot of things to get out there. The stuff that's out there right now is they're doing their POA Explorer, which is pretty cool. They got a lot of stuff that they're working on. I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to be careful of not to say anything that's not public yet. Okay. But yeah, they definitely have a lot of great things in their roadmap that you can learn more about. You can subscribe to my channel or go look at their website and kind of follow along there. But yeah, I'll be sure to keep their roadmap to myself for now. But yeah, but the bridge project is very exciting, and because a lot of people have been trying to solve this problem. A lot of people have been trying to make a bridge between two blockchains that works, and they did a good job.
Okay. And what you wanted to talk about the Cent platform as well on?
Yeah, so Cent's another example of decentralized, social media, and they've done a good job at just providing a way to incentivize people to participate in the network. And yeah, just throw it out there in a project to check out.
Okay. And one more project that I'd like to talk about is Aragon. Like, Aragon has been working on the governance problem.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and I think.
Yeah. Tell me your thoughts on it.
Yeah, I think I had read the white paper, not full, but I had a glance at it, and I checked out their website and the beta. The beta wasn't that great. I think I checked it around 2-3 weeks back, but they're. I think they are moving along fine, and right now they are basically helping other platforms like say 0x has been rumored, and I watched one of the videos of Will, who's the CEO, talk about their research with Aragon, and they are helping these dapps and other projects on ecosystem on the Ethereum ecosystem to help them in their governance process. Like say if in 0x they want to upgrade their smart contract, main trading smart contract, then there should be a way to upgrade that. It shouldn't be that only people who are working at 0x company, they are able to participate. So
Sure.
there should be a way that say all the community or all the token holders, they can take part in the upgradation, and they can say that, okay, we are fine with upgrading this part and adding this feature or subtracting some other feature. And they had some research in I think liquid voting or something like that. I don't know the exact term, but it's like say if you are in 0x, they were talking about that what they say is that their use of the token is to as a governance token. So
Sure.
they were talking like say if you want to, we want our token holders, we wanted to build a protocol, and we wanted a lot of people to take part in the governance and the upgradation process. So we created a token for that. And they were talking that like if you want to say, if you have a lot of tokens, like say if you have 1 million or a lot of tokens, 0x tokens, you can give, and then say you have entitlement of say 5 to 10% of the voting power, you can give that voting power to say a professor at MIT or at Cornell who might be able to understand what is happening better. So that is what they were working on, and I think Aragon is also thinking about that, and they are trying to solve the DAO sort of aspect of things as well. So
Right.
yeah, I think Aragon is super cool. Yeah. And
Yeah, they definitely are a productive project, and that's something that productive and prolific, right? Like that's something that a lot of people are wondering about, right? Like, so we had all these big ICOs happen, especially last year. It was just like crazy going on, and even into this year, right?
yeah,
And a lot of people are saying, all right, where's the project? Who's going to deliver? Who's going to actually give us what they said they were going to? And yeah, I love watching projects where you can just get on their repositories or watch their Twitter, and they're just moving. And I think Erdogan's doing a really good job of that.
Yeah. And what's your opinion about the ICO space as well?
Sure.
Do you see that it has slowed down, or do you see that only say people who are really serious and who have some working product, only they are going to be able to do the ICO?
That's a good question. I don't have a strong pulse on that at the moment. One thing I do, I think we're seeing, and I could be totally wrong with this, so feel free to correct me if you think otherwise, but I think in a sense it's becoming even more decentralized to the point of the knowledge of ICO as a means to raise capital. That information is spreading, and people are becoming more and more aware of Ethereum. And I think we're seeing smaller companies do more modest size ICOs and things like that. And I think we're getting closer to tokenizing businesses in a more traditional case, rather than just really speculative companies that may be born out of a place like Silicon Valley or something like that, right? Or anywhere else that has large amounts of money that want to throw things at businesses and kind of see what sticks, venture capital style investing. So yeah, that's my thought. Like I said, I don't have a strong opinion on that. I don't have a strong pulse on that particular aspect of the equation. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I was involved in the ICO space last year, so I've seen the mania, but I cut out. I haven't been in the space for 1 or 2 months or 2-3 months, but still, what I see is like the space has matured super quickly. Like it has been, like if say usually things take 2-3 years to go through the cycle. Like say there's a lot of hype and a lot of bubble like behavior, and finally like the Gartner hype cycle or something like that. But I think in the crypto game, everything is so compressed time wise.
Yes, that hit the nail on the head. Yeah, everything moves way faster.
Yeah, because there's so much the rate of experimentation is super high. So I think that's the reason for that. And like say in a normal startup game, or say in India, I can give you an example. Like when the startups ecosystem was developing here, there was a lot of startups who were just raising money. Like when the VC ecosystem was developing here, there was a lot of bubble like behavior, and it took around 2, 3, 4 years to finally get to the equation that people started to realize that these are good projects, and that is how the things work. But in ICO space, I think only in the last 6-7 months or 1 year, people have realized quite a lot of how the space works out. And I don't see a lot of scammy projects gaining mass news these days. But again,
yeah, totally. And that's one thing that I think is good is, there's always going to be newcomers to the space that are going to get scammed, unfortunately. You send me 10 Ether, I'll send you 10 Ether back. A lot of fake Twitter accounts out there, all that kind of stuff. It's really, really unfortunate. But yeah, I think people are starting to wise up a little bit, at least the people who have kind of hopped in and are kind of start to tell like what's worth it. And I hope that
and who have lost some of their money.
Yeah, totally. And we're having projects that are starting to be like due diligence, right? And like let people know and really spread the word, which I'm a fan of those projects as well. But the other thing you mentioned, everything moving faster. I mean, this is a bigger topic, right? Like the world is moving faster, technology is moving faster. And part of what makes, everything move faster is capital. And we are living, blockchain, there's a lot of money flowing around, and that's one of the factors that everything moves faster.
True.
And yeah, I think we'll continue to see that trend grow. The total market cap of cryptocurrencies, right, is changed a lot in the past 6 months. Like we saw a huge spike, and now it's kind of dropped down and is moving around and trying to find its footing, right? Trying to find an equilibrium and maybe a steady trend of some kind, whether it's up or down. And yeah, I think as that market cap continues to grow, it's going to be more money flowing into the space, more money trying to build projects, and it's just going to accelerate faster and faster.
Yeah. And I think I wanted to talk about, I had interviewed a consensus project called Balance, and I think it was relevant for the ICO space. What they were doing is say they had built an accounting software for people who are doing ICOs and token sales. And basically they set up their lot of nodes on say the smart contract, ICO smart contract, and they had built a lot of tool sets. Like say if a company raised $20 million, and they divide say 10 million has to go for the product, 5 million for legal, 5 million for marketing or something like that. Then their software tracks that, and it shows all the like a traditional company when they have to do their accounting. So they are trying to fix that problem. Like, and I think token sales might get transparent as well, because no one knows how exactly the company are spending the money right now. That they have raised. Is it only like the founders, they are using it to buy houses or on them? But if we can track all the movement of where the money is going, on which address, and finally from where did it come out to the fiat world, I think that would make the whole ecosystem more transparent as well.
Yeah, totally.
Mm-hmm. So for the final topic, I wanted to talk about to you about the whole DApp ecosystem in general. Like, where do you see that? Do you see that? So I have two questions here. Like, one is that, do you see that we'll have dApps replacing centralized applications, or we'll see dApps enabling new applications that weren't possible, or we'll see a hybrid that there might be some part that they're replacing, or there are some new applications that weren't possible before?
Sure. I think yes to all three.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think where blockchain offers a 100% competitive edge to a centralized solution, I think eventually we will see that win in the long run. Now, whether the centralized model will go away completely, that's different. That's a different question, right? Like, will it put some people out of business? I think so. Will it cause them to be dwarfed by the centralized competition? I think that's going to be more the case. Because, I mean, think about how slowly the entire globe is going to adopt to this, right? Like, you're going to have, you're always gonna have people who are on the cutting edge, right? And then that percentage is going to grow and grow and grow as more mass adoption, kind of happens, right? And in some cases, yeah, the centralized competition is going to die, or it's going to become smaller, where it makes sense. I think there will be some places where we will see a hybridized model, right? Where I think some of the big companies will feel the pressure to kind of conform to the movement, right? They're still going to maintain centralized infrastructure in some capacity, in probably most capacity, but the points of their business where they're either going to fall behind the competition or lose the competition, where they need to implement blockchain as a part of their solution, they'll do it. And I guess what's the last one? Kind of new use cases, right? Like that aren't necessarily competing, but are providing. It's just a new paradigm, right? Like, here's a new kind of application that is not just porting something over to blockchain or building a competitor. It's building something completely new. I think, yeah, definitely. And I think it's going to be solving similar kinds of problems, right? But in a new paradigm, right? As we move into the blockchain space, as we move into Ethereum, and if you believe in the token economy and you believe in all those kinds of things and how like crypto economic models work, yeah, there is a paradigm shift, a new way of thinking, a new way of new use cases that are going to come up, right? Like use cases for what I can do with Ether and how I can move that around. Like, sure, in a sense, that's competition for our new way to solve like a money problem, but I think about that completely as like this own ecosystem over here, and what I can do with tokens, and how I can do like, tokenized voting and things like that. And like anything where you're starting to talk about token economics, like those are new use cases in my mind. So,
yeah, I think for me, I think about these things like, is Ethereum the killer? Like, do we really need the tokens? Many tokens. Can't we only use Ethereum? I think that, like, say Peepit is a good example for that. Like, it doesn't just uses normal Ethereum, no other bullshit. And I do think about these things because, like, say if you are a user, you don't want to buy a lot of tokens. You don't want to buy a specific token to use the platform. Or there might be some wallet providers that enable exchanging of the tokens. Like, say if you want to use some service, you just only have Ether, and within the service, it will convert to the token. I think that also would need to be figured out, like how that would happen out.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, Gregory, you want to say something as the final words, and where can the people find you?
Sure. Yeah. So thanks again for having me on and doing this today. Super excited to talk about Ethereum and decentralized applications. So you can find my YouTube channel, DApp University. Head over there and catch up on what I'm doing with my tutorials and other kind of talks like this. We're talking to people who are building on top of Ethereum. You can check out my website, which is dappuniversity.com, where you can find some free downloads and some step-by-step written articles and things like that about how to build decentralized applications on Ethereum. And yeah, if you're watching and you are wanting to build an Ethereum project, yeah, let me know. You can contact me on my website as well. And yeah, thanks again for having me on. What about yourself?
Yeah, just I think you link down my channel as well. You can follow my channel. I'm going to more talk about the research aspect of things and what is like scalability, governance, and all these issues, and all that stuff. And like if you want to see a list of dapps, I recommend Dapp Radar. I think you recommended, and State of the Dapps is another site that I use. So yeah, and I think Week in Ethereum is another site that the audience can check out if you want to remain updated of what is happening in the Ethereum ecosystem. Yeah.
Right. Oh, and last thing too, I don't think we mentioned a lot of the mobile browsers that are out there. Mobile browsers and wallets have kind of merged, right? Check them out, like Trust Wallet, Toshi, Cipher Status, good places to start.
Yeah, I think checking out the dapps on Toshi and trying them out is super interesting. They have around 30-40 dapps, and I think all of them are decent. So yeah. Okay, great talking, Gregory. I learned a lot from you today. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, you too. Yeah, awesome. I really enjoyed this.
Okay.
All right, everybody. See ya.
Bye.